Okay, so just for the sake of time, I just have one question from Adams. So first person to stand up. Name one other thing that Honey Bunches of Oats customers are interested in. Yes. Awesome. Yep. Barbra Streisand. Okay. You can come up in. Sorry, I should have a helper. I should have you help. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so our next speaker, Justin Ethington, who is the founder of Trend Candy. Justin Ethington is a thought leadership researcher who has created some of the most unusual yet valuable thought leadership marketing campaigns of the past 10 years. He helped Qualtrics earn an $8 billion valuation of using data content to invent the new business category of experience management. And he will speak about how his evergreen content contributed to his success. And Justin, where'd you go? Oh. Yeah, so without further ado, Justin Ethington.
Thank you.
It's on. Okay. And then here's your clicker.
Thank you very much. I'll have to remember that my glass is the glass on the right, not the left. So if you see me drinking out of the wrong glass, just let me know. Give me a whoop. Well, thanks for having me. I'm going to blatantly steal a line from... Wrong one. My right. I'm going to blatantly steal a line from Adam's presentation towards the beginning. I think he used the phrase, brave the virus. I'm not going to use that for anything work-related. I just think it's the name of an awesome band. So I'm going to start a band named Brave the Virus. Maybe an opening band will be Elbow Bump. I'll kind of get a whole thing going there. Thank you for having me. Like I said, my name is Justin Ethington, and I founded Trend Candy. Basically, I'm a market researcher, and I specialize in a particular type of market research, and that's thought leadership research. I create original survey data on trending topics that clients turn into PR and content campaigns, right? And today, we're going to be talking about this is going to work. How to run the content playbook that helped Qualtrics to earn an $8 billion valuation. I know a little bit about this because before founding Trend Candy, I was at Qualtrics and ran many of their thought leadership content campaigns. Most of you are probably going to know this, so I know this is just a few of you possibly, but just in case you don't know, Qualtrics is a local SaaS company, and they experienced hypersonic growth and were acquired recently by SAP for about $8 billion. I think it still today stands as one of the largest SaaS purchases in history. Obviously, a machine like Qualtrics is a complex machine, a complex formula, and there are many, many factors that drove its success. Talented leaders, fantastic executive team, brilliant marketers, fantastic technology. So not to discount any of that, I'm just going to zoom in on one particular aspect of the success of Qualtrics that I think is relevant to us today. And that is how Qualtrics, using content and thought leadership, invented an entirely new business category called experience management. And it was the invention of that category that drove much of its success and ultimately attracted SAP. In fact, SAP swooped in. We were about to IPO. We were about a week away from an IPO, and SAP swooped in at the last minute and said, no, we want you first. So, but it was really the invention of this category that helped Qualtrics get to that point. So in order to to invent this new category of experience management, as marketers, as digital marketers, as content people, we had to ask ourselves some really tough questions that all kind of boiled down to, does our content deliver real value to anybody? Is it kind of just Me Too content? Is it your average 6 steps to blah, 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 or 5 signs that you blah, blah, blah? Is it better than that? Is it enough to attract press coverage, right? Is it just hyping our product? Or is it actually helping our customers to grow and to learn and to succeed? Is our content providing insights for free that are so valuable that prospects and customers would be willing to pay for them. That's really the benchmark that we're trying to hit. And we learned a valuable lesson in all of this. And that is that if your content is serving you more than your customer, it's really just another sales pitch, right? And it actually damages your thought leadership profile. Because people, they're repelled, generally speaking, they're repelled by advertising. They're attracted to thought leadership. There's an inverse relationship there. So you have to ask yourself, how are we doing in there? We decided that we needed to make our content irresistible, absolutely irresistible. It had to be valuable to the press, to analysts, to customers, to prospects, to everybody. It couldn't just be your kind of humdrum content, right? It had to build brand credibility. Now, true value means sharing data, not opinion, data that isn't already out there, because data drives trust, and trust drives your business. And when you bring data to the table, you don't just join a conversation, you change a conversation. And we knew we had to do that with data. So we decided to stop using our content as a way to share our company's opinions and start using our content as a way to share valuable data that no one else had that was based on original survey research, right? Qualtrics is a research company at heart, right? So we had all the tools to do that. Now, we learned that when we used research to create our content, instead of just our opinions, that it became invaluable. It became irresistible. And we saw over and over and over how this flavor of content would outperform our other content by 10 times, by orders of magnitude, really. The opinion-based or just kind of the standard content, but if we shared data that no one else had, 10x. So I'll repeat it. When it comes to content, your opinion alone isn't good enough. You need data. And this is one way Qualtrics changed the game. We frequently released data about how to improve customer experiences, product experiences, employee experiences, brand experiences. And over time, analysts noticed, PR journalists noticed, our customers noticed, and ultimately SAP noticed because they acquired us for $8 billion. So they saw some value in that. So in a nutshell, we would run the same content playbook over and over and over. I'll give you an example. We had a mantra that every campaign needed research. It was the tent pole of a campaign, research. For example, we wanted to sell more Qualtrics software into the cruise line industry, right? Cruise lines are obviously acutely interested in creating experiences, so they're a perfect match. So we didn't just create a bunch of case studies and a bunch of landing pages and a bunch of use cases and stuff. We said, let's go survey 1,000 people who just took a cruise and ask them, what did they love? What did they hate? What about the onboard experience did they appreciate? Or what did they not like or not like about their offshore experiences? Why would they become an advocate for a particular line of cruise ship? And we turned that, and we basically did all this research, and we gave it away for free, right? In the form of PR campaigns in the cruise line press, blog posts targeted to cruise line leaders. We put out infographics. We posted blog posts and about our findings, being careful to include our top SEO keywords, by the way. I forgot to add that. We launched social media posts and email drip campaigns and paid media, and we created ebooks to capture leads. We gave slide decks to our sales reps, and they would get on the phone, call the cruise lines, and say, we've got this fantastic new research. We would love to share it with you. No one else has seen it. We produced webinars and launched videos and bought ads to promote our assets, a lot of the things that we've been talking about today. And we even looped our data into emails and landing pages, right? So the essence of this is we took one study and spiraled that out into all kinds of different assets into that campaign. And again, this is something that really helped by orders of magnitude increase all of our performance of our campaigns. Really what the key to all of this is research today it's fast, it's easy, it's affordable. It used to be super hard. It used to take us super long time, like months, like we'll get that back to you next quarter. No. Let me give you just a quick example. I was working on this morning before I came up, but on Tuesday night, the president gave an Oval Office address about coronavirus. And in that announcement, he mentioned that he was releasing federal funds to the Small Business Administration for low-interest loans to small businesses impacted by the outbreak. By 8 a.m. the next morning, I have a client, by the way, they focus on small business loans for small businesses. By 8 a.m. yesterday morning, for a client, we had a survey out to 500 small business owners. We had our results back about, are they going to use this loan? What would they use it for? Can they survive without it? Are they thinking of laying off employees? If so, would a loan help you, would stave that off? All kinds of headlines. And now they're pitching that today to media outlets, fresh. So you don't have to wait a long time. And that's more of an opportunistic survey. Most of them are more strategic. You have a calendar about what you're going to be talking about. But when there's a new story that you can tie into, you can have research data in 12 hours or less. So there's an example. So I'm just, 3 parts of what I'm going to talk about. Part 1, how thought leadership drives brand growth. And then I'm going to talk about how to create thought leadership content from research. And then finally, how to turn thought leadership into content, PR, and marketing campaigns. So let's dive in. Let's say you're trying to reach HR directors. How to get their attention. Create original research that helps HR directors solve a key pain point. Maybe research on something like how to recruit, retain, and engage millennials who are famous for job hunting, right, and job jumping. You could survey them about why they left their last job and what, if anything, would have convinced them to stay. And then when you have your findings, now you bring your research to life. Take the most surprising headlines and make a PR campaign to the human resources trade media. Launch gated ebooks that about your findings and describe the context more in depth. Make a series of infographics that are easy to share. Offer a 5-minute summary presentation to your sales reps. Are you trying to reach CMOs? Then you need to create research that CMOs want to see, that solves a pain point for them. You could survey marketers about why their product launches fail and turn that into a campaign called 5 Reasons Launches Fail. Do they lack executive support? Is there miscommunication between teams? Is their segmentation just off? Take what you learn and turn that into a 2-minute video. Create a gated report to capture leads on your site or publish a press release with the most excited findings. And then buy paid ads on LinkedIn that link to your assets. Make a short webinar that highlights key insights and provides recommended actions, right? You get the idea. I won't drone on too much about this. But the key to all of this really is persistence. You can't just drop a study once a year and sit back and wait for Forbes to crown you a thought leader. It's a constant drumbeat. If you look at what all the big companies, especially the SaaS companies doing, Microsoft, Salesforce.com, they're always releasing new data that no one else has. It's like a drumbeat, right? So it's really part poetry and part music. Find something unique to say that no one else can, and then just beat that drum over and over. Like they say, water doesn't cut through rock with power, it cuts through rock with persistence, right? You just have to keep dripping this out. And the rewards are rich, really. 79% of buyers say that thought leadership is critical for determining which providers they're going to choose. Infographics, do you know they're shared 23 times more often than other types of documents and assets on LinkedIn? 80% of content marketers say that thought leadership is the most effective type of content. And C-suite executives spend over 4 hours a week consuming different forms of thought leadership. Forrester, I think this is really interesting, Forrester says that thought leaders benefit in the early stages through more of a sales cycle, through more inbound queries and shortlisting, in the middle stage through faster sales cycles and higher close rates and bigger deal sizes, and then in the later stage through increased customer loyalty and higher lifetime value. Got the right cup. It was easy this time. So, part 2, how to do this, how to create this content, how to move on this playbook. We can take a lesson from music, right? Music uses something called hooks. The first 4 bars of Day Tripper by the Beatles, right? Everyone knows that. The first guitar lick of Sweet Home Alabama, right? Even going back to Beethoven, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, the fate knocking at the door. That's a hook. Those are musical hooks. They're designed to suck you into the song. And you need hooks in your research to suck someone into the research, right? Research is no longer saltine flavored, crunchy, dry, boring stuff. There's a ton of creativity that you can inject into research with humor and surprising insights. But you need that hook. If you don't have a hook, it won't get a look. You really need that in your research. A good hook isn't clickbait. It's a simple idea from your research that's compelling enough to pull someone in. So I thought I would just maybe have a little fun with this, but we'll see how it goes. So you can have fun with research. And like I said, I actually started off as a creative person. I was on the creative side of advertising, and now I'm in research. And I found that, for me at least, it's really helped me to apply creative thinking to research because there's a lot of fun that you can pull out of this and a lot of really interesting ideas. So, some recent studies. Go ahead and shout out the answer if you want to take a guess. What % of Americans, would you guess, won't drink Corona beer because of coronavirus? You're close. 34%. This was all over the news a few days. Did you guys see this on the news? So I didn't do this one. I'm stealing this one. But I saw that stat on CNN and I went, oh, why didn't we do that? Great question. What % of Americans, would you guess, say that they've actually slept in a hotel room that was haunted? Yeah, here and there. 39%. Oh, maybe someone said 40. Maybe I heard of 40. Is that right? What % of people have eaten leftovers from a random food cart in a hotel hallway? It's all over the place. 1%. Well, at least that they fessed up to it. But I will tell you, I've done that. I was in high school and I did that once with some fries. They were delicious. Look, and I survived. And that's why I've got immunity from coronavirus today. Who are we most afraid to tell that they have bad breath? Boss. Can you see the S? Does it come off? Sorry, the font didn't work on this. That says boss. Makes sense, right? By the way, we're not afraid to tell our pets that they have bad breath. That came in last, right? So the first example isn't mine, but these others are. But in fact, some of these were for a study on hotels, on how to help hotel chains to compete with Airbnbs, and this one about bad breath was one for the dental industry. But you get the idea, right? Another key that I use is called start at the end. And this will help you really focus your research. Whenever I work on a study, I start at the end. We create the results first. We write sample headlines, completely made up numbers, about what we're hoping to see in the study. And then we reverse engineer that into a study, right? Being very careful not to manipulate the results. We're not trying to manipulate results. We're just trying to write the results and then see which ones are true. Some examples of sample headlines might be more teachers have paid for school supplies out of their own pockets than have actually paid off their student loans. Or more millennials have pets than kids. Or 83% of employees don't really care if a customer is happy, right? Just something kind of pithy. And then when you write your sample headlines, you got to package them in a way that raises curiosity. So here are a few packaging techniques that I like to use. One, more than, less than. You've seen that a few times already. The Japanese buy more adult diapers than baby diapers. That is true. You don't need numbers. It's just a simple idea with no numbers, but everyone gets it. You can break myths. 8+ hour workdays do not necessarily lead to productivity, better productivity. Find gaps. Only 20% of managers say that bias in the workplace is a problem, but 84% of workers do. And then finally, add dimensions to research that's already out there. Malls are closing, but not just because of Amazon, right? You can piggyback off of things that people already know. Here's the formula. Write about timely topics that are being talked about. Use solid statistics that are credible. Use original data that no one else has. And use those hooks. Find creative ways to draw people into your research. So, just a few notes about these. Tie to current events. It's a simple thing, right? It could be current news coverage, sports events, seasonal events, societal trends like the sharing economy or home downsizing. When you tie to current events, it makes journalists and first of all, it makes journalists and influencers much more likely to share your research because it's already tying into what they're talking about. Compare groups. I love to do this. You know, as tribal human beings, we all have that tribal part of our brain, that primitive part of our brain. We're fascinated by group contrasts, right? Find how men answer versus women, or conservatives versus liberals, or red state versus blue state, or by industry, right? And dig into all those internals that show how different groups are thinking. Build credibility. Make sure that your surveys adhere to sound methodology and be transparent about how you reach your conclusions, right? You don't want to hide anything. You want to be completely transparent. You'll only be seen as a thought leader if you bring evidence to the table. Give to your customers, don't sell to them. I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, but think about it. Do you want research that sells to you, or do you want research that helps you? Like I said, we're repelled by advertising, but we're attracted to people offering to help us sincerely. And it's a delicate balance, I admit that. But as soon as someone senses that you're selling to them, they bolt. They don't want that. I would, wouldn't you? Feed research to your sales team. I mentioned this a couple of times. Partner with media, excuse me. When you partner with the media, you help them. You help journalists do their jobs by not having to dig up data themselves. And I don't sense there's a lot of PR people in here, so just really quickly on this. But when you have new data, don't publish it until you've given it to targeted journalists under embargo. Contact 10 journalists that you hope cover your stuff and say, hey, this is under embargo until January 15th. And then they start racing to cover it, right? And I'll tell you, we got so good at this at Qualtrics, just pounding out great research, that we would actually have journalists call us and say, hey, I'm writing about this next month. Do you have any data I can share, right? Feed research to your sales teams. Like I mentioned, this is a great tool for sales teams. It gives them a reason to call, a reason to share, a reason to be confident on the phone and say, we've got this great stuff we want to share with you. One of the best calls I ever got at Qualtrics was from a sales rep who said, listen, that insurance report that you guys did, it got me on the phone with this customer, and we're going to close $1 million account now. So it works, definitely helps for them. Partner with influencers and experts, right? Bloggers, journalists, subject matter experts to add depth and different context to what you're working on. Create research around your SEO keywords. I mean, so much of what we've been talking about is SEO. Take your top 10 keywords and let's create a research report around those, right? Google loves research. All right, we've talked about the do's. Let me just kind of wrap up this section with the don'ts. Don't conduct your own research. It adds a layer of skepticism to your research if it's coming internally. I know this is self-serving, but you want to have an independent research agency run your research. It gives you instant credibility. Don't just survey your customers. If you ever come out and say, hey, we surveyed 100 customers and blah, 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 it's like, no one cares. No one wants to see that. And then don't lowball your sample sizes. You've got to have an honest, good, random sample size to have credible stats. All right, last part. How to turn your thought leadership into campaigns. Remember, there's a lot of media chaos out there. You don't want to break through to your customers. Everyone talks about having a breakthrough. We're going to break through. We're going to break through the clutter, the chaos. You want a breakthrough, but it's the opposite. You want your content so good that people break through the clutter to get to you, not that you're trying to get out to them. They're running to you. Okay. Mexican thought leadership is like Mexican cuisine. What goes into Mexican food? Kind of the same ingredients, right? It's beef, tortillas, rice. Oh yeah, we're going to get tacos talk tonight, right? It's kind of the same stuff. And they just mix it up in different configurations to make different things. I mean, is an enchilada really that different than a burrito, aside from the size and a couple of ingredients? Research is the same way, right? Just one study, you can scramble it up into all kinds of different assets. And I won't go over these again because we talked about those, but PR campaigns and YouTube videos and sales presentations and all those things. Final thoughts. Parting words of advice. It's all about consistency. Drop new thinking every month. Customers aren't just buying your products, they're buying into you. If they don't buy into you, they're not going to buy your products. And then whenever you release data, answer 3 questions. What, so what, now what? What are we saying? Why is it important? What do you do about it? So how to 10x your content marketing, especially for B2B. Don't just share opinions, share valuable data. Have a constant drumbeat of research, make your data irresistible, and package it into consumable formats with hooks. That's what I got. Thank you very much. I haven't kept track of time. Do I have time for questions, or should we keep a couple of questions if you have any? All right. Oh, we got one here.
So, on a limited budget, how's the best way to get started on this?
On a limited budget, what's the best way to get started on this? First of all, you don't need a research team. You don't need a data scientist. You don't need a statistician. There are plenty of online platforms, basically survey platforms. Qualtrics is there, but it's on the higher end of expenses. You've got Question Pro and Survey Analytics and all kinds of others that are cheap or nearly free. And then just start that process. Write your sample headlines, reverse engineer those into survey questions, and then run your data on that survey platform. It's really not it doesn't have to be an expensive process. Go ahead. What's the most interesting statistic that I've seen, that I've been a part of recently, is the question. I will throw another stat out from that dental study. It was a campaign going out to dentists to help them, or to thank them for having such kind of a gross job. And one of the stats that we got out there that I didn't publish was, I'm trying to think of the exact number, I think 74% of people will not eat a piece of food on their plate if it was accidentally spit on by someone else who was talking at the table. So there you go. Off the top of my head, we won't eat food that someone spit on. There you go. Like you didn't know that. One right here. Sorry, can you say it again?
One of your don'ts was don't conduct your own research. But it sounds like putting this stuff together in the surveys is your own research. So I'm confused on that.
Well, what I mean, he said, one of your don'ts is don't conduct your own research. So what I'm saying there is it's always better, instead of saying research that we conducted on our team, it's always better to say we've commissioned an independent research firm to study X. It just adds a layer of credibility for you because of it's third party, it's done by a professional, and it's done by someone who doesn't have an interest in the outcome. That makes sense? He asked me to talk more about the embargo, the press embargo. So what a press embargo is you go out to a journalist and you say, we have this thing that we want to talk about. We're not going to talk about it until this date. We're going to keep it secret. That way, the reporter has time to work on a story covering your thing, and then they can release it on the day of the embargo, right? So they get to scoop the project, basically. They're not going to get scooped by you, because a journalist doesn't want your data if you've already been talking about it for 2 weeks. They want to scoop it. They want it to be new. So that's how you work an embargo. So how we would plan it at Qualtrics is we'd have an embargo date, and then on that date, we wouldn't say anything about our data, but then on that date, we would start publishing it in conjunction with the journalists who were going to write about it. And you know what? If the journalists don't write about it, we would usually go out anyway and just publish it anyway. I think I'm over time. Oh, okay, all right. One more here. So Trend Candy is basically myself, and I've got 2 others who are working. I've got a designer, and I've got a salesperson, and then on occasion, I will, depending on work, I'll just work with, I've got a kind of network of freelancers. I actually work a lot with the former head of PR at Qualtrics, named Julia Giona. And so she's more of a PR expert, I'm more of the research expert, and we'll team up like that. All right. Thank you very much. It's been fun. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Justin. And sorry I tried to steal your water at the beginning. Okay, so a few questions. First question is, okay, and so remember, if you know the answer, stand up. Don't just raise your hand, stand up. One of the keys that Justin uses is start at the blank. Yes. End. Yep, that's correct. Good job. Did you want your gift card? Great. Thank you. Okay, next question. So at the very end, he said, questions to ask yourself when you are ready to release new content. He listed out 3 things. Yep. What, so what, and now what? Yep, correct. Awesome. Come on, let's get a round of applause. Great job.